whole thing about where to keep your hands. Like, this is a full thing.
My shirt's so big. I'm put cube up. Oh no, cause then.
Oh, Mike.
So, is this the official interview?
Yeah.
Yes, and it starts with Secunda first. Secunda's the boss.
Okay.
I'm the host.
Oh, the host.
Just let me know when to start, when we're ready.
And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mics are hot, on air, and go.
Hello. Welcome to Imagine a World.
Oh, wait, we'll start all over?
Oh, I'm not looking at you. I'm looking at the camera.
At camera one, far left.
Okay.
That is correct.
But in this, let me say this. When she's talking, I need to be looking at you.
Yes.
Oh, only when I'm doing the introduction, closing.
And telling the people
that. And telling the people, then I talk with the conversation. Okay, cool.
I know you all lost track when you all were doing ours, but I won't do that to you.
That's because ain't nobody, your boy left. That's what I appreciate it.
No, it's not on that. I'll make sure that when it's time for both of you all to be talking, that I capture both of you all.
Okay,
So
well, thank you. I appreciate it.
I knew that was you back here.
Yeah, but you said I don't know who back there. You didn't say Secunda.
I just didn't want to embarrass
Well, I mean, it was done.
Okay.
Y'all know who you were talking to.
This is straight nation right here.
Okay.
That's 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Okay, now 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go.
Hello, this is Imagine a World, and I'm your host, Secunda. And in this new season, we are not only talking about imagination, but we are imagining what our world looked like if we cared about one another, right? If our first response when things happen were not, how can I punish, right? But how could we fix this, right? What do we need, as a people, as a group, as neighbors, as citizens, as Black folks? Like, what is it that we need to make sure that we all can make it? Why am I saying this? Like, if you look around, there is so much dis-ease, right? Mental health issues are like skyrocketing, right? Our people are losing it, right? Like their evictions are like skyrocketing. And there's violence like everywhere. But we always say like, how can we fix the violence? Like one of the ways that I believe that we can fix the violence is to really address the issues, right? Anyway, I can go on a rant on and on and on, but I won't do that because that's not what this show is about. This show is about expanding our imagination to think about these things together, right? And to imagine what it would look like. And not only imagine, but really talk to people who are not only thinking about it, but putting these things into practice, right? So through this season, we'll have all kinds of dope guests, some experts, some, testing, which expertise just mean experimenting with the plan. And not only will we look at folks here, but we'll look at people all around the planet that are not only, again, imagining it, but doing it. And also want to say, like, it's not just about what we do on the outside, like within these systems, but what are the things that we're doing in our home, right? If I have a home, right, or on my street with my neighbors, if I cannot learn how to be considerate of my neighbor, right? Like if I live upstairs, my neighbor, or I live downstairs, my neighbor has a child, and I'm calling the cops and complaining because the child is running, right? I don't have enough in me to say children have to move, right? But I am trying to fix the problem immediately. Or if I live upstairs, right, and my neighbor is elderly and, needs a certain amount of sleep, and maybe I do have a child, but I don't think about how do I, yes, let my child be free, but also like create a space where I'm understanding that my neighbor also needs their rest, right? So anyway, It's internal, it's external. If we can't do it in our homes, we can't do it out in the world. But today, I'm so excited to be here with a powerful guest who is doing this very thing right now as we speak. Her name is Stephanie Coleman. Good evening, good morning, daytime. You don't tell them when this show gonna air. So
all energy,
I'm
good. It's good to be here with you, Secunda. It's always good to be like in your proximity and in your space and close to your energy. This is a powerful conversation and the work that you don't hear enough of. So
right back at you. And Stephanie is here because a lot of times when we think about systems, we never think about media. We never think about the crooked ways and the harmful ways that media influences us, the way we think, just how we treat each other, just all sorts of things, right? Like even in the way that media is set up.
Right.
But you are doing things. Before we get into that, okay, I want to ask you, when you hear the word like care, like what does that mean to you?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a tough word because you said something about giving ourselves like permission to care. So I can look back over seasons and what care was different at different seasons. Yeah. And my lack of care at different seasons was noticeable. Like when we met, my dad was wonderful, but he was going through some health challenges and eventually sort of transitioned. Yeah. And like what my care looked like caring for him. I didn't know, I had never been in that space. So I didn't realize how much lack of care I had in trying to be caring. Yeah. As a friend and family, I'm sort of a big sister in that sense. Yeah. So it's like, oh, give it to your siblings. And so the care that I was sort of nurtured in was caring that everyone had. Because as a big sister, like you've already had it. It's like, well, I don't know if I had it. I think they already got it all the time. So just that, I think that vocabulary of knowing, I went to a therapist, right, for some care. I've gone to different seasons. And I was explaining this sort of behavior of what I was doing even at work and even building the magazine. And she says, oh, it's a phenomenon. It happens with usually the oldest girl in a family dynamic. Oldest girl. Yeah. And the way you care. And she says, you're building your company like your family structure. And so instead of building independence, you're building to where it's a weight on you. And it was just, you didn't know that there was a different level of care that you needed to say, no, I need people who can do so that I can go and care for myself because they're independent and capable. So care, that's a long answer, but
no, it's a good answer.
Right, it's evolving, and it's nice to have people around you who care enough to say, I don't think you're caring for yourself in this season. Right, you had it last season, but things have changed. Let's talk. So,
if you could think about a time where you felt cared for, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be.
That's a good question.
What was that? Why did you feel cared for? And like, what was that like?
That's going to be interesting. You're going to have me crying before question 4.
It's the truth. This is a real space.
It is, yeah. No, I think there have been, I'm going to say 2 or 3 different types of moments, right? Where people sort of just took that time, right? When they said, one, I see you. I see you. I don't see your title. I don't see what you're building. I don't see the other spaces. I see like you. And I've had just a handful of people who said, I see you, and I see that you need to go and breathe about this. Or I see you, and I see that you need some rest. Yeah. Or, and I'll even say a moment with you recently, like, I haven't seen you, and I just need to put eyes on you. Yeah. And those moments when you're in the business of I'm not saying being strong. Like, I don't like that word, as you have said. Just being in this world, trying to survive and prosper and whatever the world calls live. You don't realize that, like, somebody is looking back at you because you're going. And so to have people come and say, I see you, or I need to see you, or I need to hear your voice, or I heard your voice, or your voice doesn't sound the way it should. Those moments are super caring because then they had to know you. They had to not just brush it off and say, well, I'm glad you're good. You know, I'm going back to the office. See you next time. Hope life works out. It's like, you don't sound right. You don't look right. You don't feel right. Something about your I'm doing good didn't feel good.
Yeah.
And I'll be over there in an hour. I'll be over there tomorrow. So those are the moments I think where I feel it's amazing, all the money things, but when someone like hears it in your voice.
To be known, right?
Yeah.
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 Oh, that's powerful. You know, and what I hear in that is like this, like humanizing you. Like, I am a real person. I'm an individual. And I think one of the things that this world, these systems do, even as we're trying to grow and people are trying to prosper, is that they push that aside.
They do.
And instead of being a person, you become a number.
Yep.
It becomes a transactional relationship.
Yep.
Right? It becomes not what it's supposed. The joy can be just snatched out of what you're building because of transactions, or like, I don't see this person. I just see what I'm trying to do.
That is massive. I mean, we have objectified human beings. It's like, you would be great to get me here. Yeah, but that's not what I'm here for.
That's not what I'm here.
I didn't wake up to be something that you can walk over to get to where you need to be. That wasn't even on my to-do list.
Exactly.
And now that's the only thing I can do, is be something that can allow you to get to where you want. And that is such a unfortunate part of the way the world has sort of managed humanity, right? Like, you're just an object towards a goal. It's like, well, actually, if nothing happened today, but two people sat by the lake and laughed, that was the beauty of the humanity for the day. That's enough.
That's enough. I've been seeing this meme go around, and I'm going to paraphrase because it don't say exactly this, but it kind of says that, you know, some peoples and cultures ask, what am I put in this world to do? And some cultures ask, or some cultures state, I'm put in this world to be. To be in the world. That's it.
Yeah,
There's no, you know what I mean? Like, and that's it. And
that's
and
powerful.
if because we always not gonna be doing things. We are human beings.
Right. It's like the word slipped past us. We are supposed to be. I mean, to sit and talk.
Come on.
To not, I'm late with the talk, or I got to make sure I do something with the talk. It's like, no, I had a human moment. I was transformed in that moment. And that moment was not for Instagram. It was not to tell the people, to count my counts. It was that moment was to be present with the person who I'm in presence of. That's
it.
That is it.
And that was joyful, that was pleasurable, that was energizing. It was worth my time.
It was.
You know?
Yeah.
But one of the reasons why I'm glad that we had this opportunity and this time and space together, because what you are doing with media, what you are doing with your work, humanizing folks, what you envision, what you imagine. When I think about that, I think about care. So when I think about some of the ways that media has cruelly treated, I mean, all kind of things. Like, I think about how stories are taken and changed. I think about how, if you think in terms of just Black people, right, how we are, and Palestinians, right?
Absolutely.
You know, how they'll say people died instead of, you know, when something happens, how we were murdered, how we're no longer a name, but a number, right? I think about Katrina, right? When, you know, and I that's one way, media. The other way, though, is just the internal system, right? So not only the outside, but the inside, like how these systems operate and how they're created, how freedom isn't given to writers to speak and to talk and just all kinds of ways, right? I can go on and on and on. But what you're doing, right, what you're building with the trade, what you've already built. I had the opportunity to intern with the trade back in the day, you know, and it was my first real experience in this world, like in this particular type of space. And I remember one of the things that you said, and I hold that with me, you know, and I almost think like it planted a seed in me and it's just like evolved. But you were like, you know, with the trade, with the magazine, with the publication at the time, you were like, I'm rebranding us or re-showing us to ourselves, right? Like but the way that you show the images, the way you see it more and more now in media, right? You see it more in Instagram, but at that time,
it wasn't,
you did not see that. You didn't see our community. And I'm from the hood, you know, and I know for some people that's a negative connotation, but when I think of it, I had nothing but life and love and joy and family and parties and good, bad, and ugly, right? But it was such a rich space. And the way that you published this, the way that you showed us to ourselves, right, was what I knew we were, right? But it made it look so big, right? And it was art, and it was true, and it was stories about the everyday, and it was stories about the great, right? Very. So, like in terms of even the way you thought of media, what we can do with this. You moved in a system of care, right? What made you want to, I'm gonna ask you two questions in one. First of all, what made you want to do that in the beginning? And how has care evolved in you to where you are doing and about to, I know y'all don't know what she's doing yet, but she's gonna tell you. I'm setting it up, okay? Okay, I know. What she doing? She gonna tell you. Okay. What you are about to do and what you're doing now.
Well, you know, it's interesting, and this is just sort of truth and lending. I've always been the person who no one likes to watch TV with, right? You see what they're doing? You know what I mean? I'm reading the paper and I'm like, you see how they take these shots every time we're, right? I've always sort of had like this hypersensitivity to, especially as someone who creates art. I know, just like we know, for those who've ever been behind the camera, you don't just sit down and do a video shoot. You don't just sit down and do a TV interview. I mean, we've been preparing and lighting. So when you see an image that shows us negative, that was a lot of work. It wasn't like I just happened to catch them like this. Oh no, I scripted them like this. And so the more I became an artist and the more I was fortunate to create, the more I was like, this is intentional. And I'll never forget, I was at, what's the park? Herman Park, right? And there was a big concert, and I was like high school, and it was drama, and some shenanigans happened, and it became this to-do, right? I think a gun went off or whatever, but it's Texas.
Come on.
It's Texas. There's always going to be something. But because it's round, the left went right and the right went left, and it was just, it came from the left or it came from the right. It was just like, well, it came from, no one could tell. So we ended up walking back to my dad's office on, which was at that point was, I don't know, 7-minute drive. Who knows how long it was to walk. And when we got there, it was on TV. And I remember like, that's not what happened. And it was just horrific, like bodies all over the place. I was like, that's not even close to what happened. And my dad looked and he was like, that's how they do it. And I said, Like at that point, it resonated. One, that everyone knows that they're lying about the story. And two, everyone has learned how to double speak. This is what they're saying, but this is probably what happened. And just sort of those moments, just like you said, there's these moments and things that sort of align you to say, well, wait till I get a chance to say something. You know what I mean? That was always my nature. Like, wait, I got something to say too. So with that, coming to Houston, seeing this horrible juxtaposition as an adult. Right, so I was high school then. I came back as an adult, lived in New York, lived in these places where it was about nationalities. It wasn't just black folk and white folk and blue folk and gray folk. It was like, oh no, he's Puerto Rican, he's Cuban, he's Dominican, she's from Vietnam. So the complexion was less relevant than the culture. And so then when I came back to Houston, life happened, divorce happened, all those things. And I was like, this is worse than when I left. You know, how are they getting away with telling stories so wrong?
Yeah.
And I was complaining about it, which is what people do at the bus stop. And someone said, well, what are you going to do? I said, why don't someone do something? She said, why don't you? And I said, we were just talking. You didn't have to call me on the accountability. And then community began to endorse it. And I said, you know, I was speaking to this lady, and everyone said, well, why don't you? This conversation is going way wrong, right? This community. I'm trying to get some advocates to say, let's just keep complaining. I didn't realize that advocates were ready for, well, maybe you were called to do this. Maybe you were wired because they knew it was wrong, but they didn't know how.
Yeah.
And I just happened to be behind the scenes in life to say, oh, that doesn't mean anything. That's just a flyer. Yeah. Anyone can make a flyer. That's called propaganda. That's called agitprop. That's what. So I had the academic vocabulary to unpack it and say, that's not real. That's just TV. That's not news. That's just 6 o'clock. That's, you know what I mean? Like it's not like they're a doctor. There's no rule that qualifies it as factual news.
No.
They don't have to do anything to, and then when they're wrong, it's just like,
oh, sorry. Uh-oh, we was wrong about that. No big to-do, no big correction, no centerpiece to say, hey, this is how we presented that. Let's inform you well. But it's like misinformation, propaganda, sense of, you know what I'm trying to say.
Just
sensibilization, whatever.
Yeah, I do.
You
they
know,
know
just
too.
making a big thing. Y'all know too.
But that is where that healing now becomes with each time, and even as we work together, with each time it was done in theory. You don't know when we sat here today and you came down. I didn't know that this would be the feeling that we would have. That's that moment of presence. And so there's some wellness in that, to be able to be like available for the moment, available for the alignment, available for those who are helping us pull this off. Just like, I'm here. Yeah. And every time we would do something, I was like, oh, this isn't gonna go well. And people would come back and say, I was moved by that. I was touched by that. How might we do better? Well, that's healing. It encourages lack of sleep, but it's healing to know that like this really touched someone's DNA. It didn't just touch their life. It changed like how they move in the world, how they move with their kids. And I quit often. I quit a lot. And I quit more than I keep going with the ancestors, the universe, God, alignment, human through people, always reminds me like this is the right path when I am throwing away things because I have quit, right? But I've even had, when I was done, Joy, who's a salon, who owns 7 Degrees hair studio here, she in Pocket Full of Stones. I was like, oh, I'm not doing this. And she says, oh, out of the blue, she was calling me because her kids, her family came together, and their kids and her nieces, nephews, and all did a vision board. Yeah. And they said, we just used a Trey magazine because there was enough to aspirational. I know, that's what I said. And she said she didn't have to worry about liquor and cigarettes, and she didn't have to worry about anything that they should not aspire to become.
Wow.
I was, okay, right? Like, what do you say to that? Like,
thank you. Like, to everything that you just named. What can you say but thank you? Because what a way to use your time. Like the time and space and body and energy and mind and all the gifts and stuff you have. Yeah. Like, what a way.
What a way. And the other part, when you talked about what everyone else does, I think it's okay for us to acknowledge it, but to not live in it. You know what? I look at Playboy, awesome. No judgment.
Yeah, no
Right?
judgment.
But I can't go there as a woman saying, well, why are you not talking about, well, that's not their audience.
That's not their audience.
So our wellness is not their audience.
Thank you.
That's not my job to convince you that it's okay to do a human story about me as a human.
It's not. And the time that it takes to spend your time trying to convince somebody of your humanity or convince somebody in that way.
Right.
You know, versus, because one of the things that I hope to do and believe to do here is planting seeds.
Yeah.
Right? For those who would connect, for those who know, for the generations that's coming up.
Yeah.
If more, no shade to Playboy, no shade to, I am shade to the criminal justice system.
Yeah.
Yeah, shade to some of these, to just a world that believes in punitive, a punitive way to handle society's problem, right? Ruth Wilson Gilmore says that where life is precious, right? So human beings, what we're doing with our time, our work, when you have a society that thinks like that, you move differently, right? So whether it's media, right, whether it's telling a story or whether it's, you know, someone broke in a car, right? That life is precious.
It is precious.
So there's a way that you operate. There's a way that you engage, right? There's a way that you treat a child that has stabbed someone with a pencil, not on purpose, but like, you know.
Yeah,
Kids are on purpose.
Yeah.
Kids, right? But like, not like a criminal.
Yeah.
But this life is precious. How do we ensure that this child is able to easily, right, and rightfully deal with their emotions, with anger, right? So that they can be well, not just, this child is a monster, right? And how do we see ourselves and highlight the beauty in ourselves and give people something to envision, put on their vision board, right? That they can aspire to. But, tangent, however, I want to get back to, that's where you started. How has this evolved now, right? The vision, you ain't got to tell it all.
But this is the evolution of it. Like, imagine a world indeed. Do you know how extraordinary it is to be sitting across from you, directing this whole and all the work you have done from the first day we met? Like, I imagined a world where this is familiar and where you know you have a space and a voice and we can elevate it and we've moved beyond. We started at 24 sheets of paper, you know? And now here we are where you have panels and discussions and travel and people are asking and doing, and how might we imagine a world that Secunda has created, a platform for people to imagine, where other people have created other shows that, whether or not you understand the narrative, they deserve a space and a place to say that. So as complicated as the piece has been to say, like, it was foreign when we first started in the 4th largest city in the nation. It was foreign, right? Now it's familiar in our lifetime, in a few years, right? And then the nieces, nephews, neighbors, kids will not know a time when it wasn't familiar. Oh, well, my Aunt Secunda was always on TV. My cousin Wajilu was always directing and producing and running and managing. I always knew a person like Deloitte who ran a camera. It's familiar. I also always knew integrated spaces. Yeah. When I first started the magazine and I was looking for ads, I'd walk into rooms and I'd say, what's for people who celebrate excellence? Of course, it's from my lens, African American woman. I can speak to my truth, make a place for people. But I have friends of all nationalities, all backgrounds, so all of us are welcome in this book. Well, just so you know, that's not a good speech. That little kumbaya.
No,
there's
friend.
No. And to the point of like rage, right? The marketing person was like, that doesn't work. Are you talking to Black people? Or are you talking to women with age? And I was like, I don't know that math. And I needed to like succumb to that math initially to try and get it, but they didn't advertise anyway, right? Because they couldn't imagine a world, where someone like us could produce it, but also that it could be so open and that it could be so beautiful and that it could be so non-hateful. There was no room for that, right? It wasn't exploitative. Most of the people didn't even pay to get in the book. You had to be chosen on your character. Like, that's not gonna work. So the whole business model was,
that's it.
It was wrong, wrong. Until we said, you know what, we're gonna pray on this. It's being clearly guided by something else. It keeps growing in spite of all the obvious math, but because we imagined, and I was blessed to have like friends become, people come and see, like, I see you. I don't know what you're up to, but I see something different in this, and how might I help? Right? I was sitting in an office by myself, like, well, what am I? How am I? This is not even a plan. This is just, but so I'm going to imagine for those who don't know, you were an intern in theory, but you were essential to the growth. There's no way it would have been here without. And I'll never forget, I came in the office, the internship was in theory over. I walked to the back like, I'm going to have to figure this out all by myself. It was very dramatic, right? If I had a blanket.
Of course. Dramatics over here.
And I walked in and you were there because you had imagined the possibility. You had not just imagined it, you created it. Right? You saw it go. You saw the phone calls. You saw that, you know what, we can actually change our life by rethinking how we live and we see ourselves, right? And how we relate. And I said, oh, hi. And I tiptoed back to my dad. I was like, she's still here. It's over. And I had to process it, and he had to say, yes. She did come back. And I said, but why did she come back? Like, why did she come back? You know what I mean? So we imagine, and we don't realize that when it becomes real, we have to imagine something better. And then that becomes real. And then we imagine something greater, and that becomes real. So to see that the people who I knew when we first started 15 years ago, this June, right, on a little sheet of paper with typos, that someone saw that. And now there are shows and people and speakers, and it's familiar, and you can live out like boldly Secunda, and it doesn't have to be what the world says is. It's what you are, period. You don't have to explain it, you don't have to like it, you don't have to, there's nothing to imagine. It is, so if I never breathe on the planet again, the planet is manifesting a new seed, right? That a new truth is the new, you can't unsee what you know now.
Cannot. There's no looking back.
There's no looking back.
New world forward, right?
It's really beautiful. I mean, this is something to say all of this out loud because you don't think about it, and of all the people to have that conversation with, like, but I do believe, and it sounds naive until you've lived it, I do believe we can change the world one person at a time.
Absolutely.
And I'm watching, it's like, it's kind of all on everybody's TV, she's all on every panel, but you can pick and choose. You also are not on a bunch of people's panels. You're also not on, because you have chose to imagine a world where you don't have to do that one. And it's true. No, I see what you're offering, but I'm not taking that carrot. That is, our ancestors' cried, prayed, did libations for the ability for you to have the freedom to say, yeah, I'm not doing that today.
Wow.
That's the piece that I want for my great-great-grandkids, to say, no, today, no. Isn't that peace?
That is absolute peace and freedom. And that, you know, the fact that you said that is just really, really powerful, because that is the one thing a lot of our ancestors could not say.
They could not say.
They couldn't say no.
Yeah, they could not say no.
But thank you so much for being here. I am just like humbled and wowed by like the space that you've created. And she ain't telling it all. But I've been in this space. The reason why I'm in the studio is because, you know, of what you're doing and how, it's not just what you're doing, it's how you're doing. It's not just what you're saying, it's how you're saying it, like where that comes from, creating space for other creators. And you're in a space to create space for creators. Like it just flows. So yeah, you'll hear more. You'll hear more. This is Imagine a World. We are in collaboration with Trade Nation on Trade Nation, Houston Media Source, Our Radio. I don't know, all the people we out here. But yeah, you can find us, listen to us, just follow us at Imagine a World on Instagram. We out.
Let's go ahead and do that one more time.
Okay.
Closing.
Okay, good, thank you. Okay. Thank you.
I am your father. All right, tribe.
The power.
This is Imagine a World. I'm your host, Secunda, and we are in collaboration with Trade Nation on All Real Radio, with Houston Media Source. Peace, and we're out.
Did you?
And again.
Did you like that one?
No, I didn't. I had messed up too quick. Houston Media Source. Okay.
If you can't say
I'm dehydrated. That's what's going on.
Hold on. Let's do a plug with you saying yours, Trade Nation Media, yours only. Yours, and then Trade Nation Media, and then you can do one with Houston Media Source.
So do it twice. So do one just with us two, and then do another closing with Houston Media.
Okay, and then I'll do one with All Real Radio too. So
however you do it. Yeah, whatever works. Because now you got some stuff to slice and dice.
Okay, cool.
Come on, Brother Wajilu.
Go ahead. 5, 4, 3, 2, Secunda.
This is Imagine a World, brought to you by Trade Nation. See you soon.
I'll do your next one.
Can I do the next one? Or you didn't like that?
No, keep rolling. That was good.
Okay.
You like it?
It sounded a little weak.
Trade Nation Media.
Okay, Trade Nation Media. Okay, I'll say that. This is Imagine a World, brought to you by Trade Nation Media.
That was excellent.
I should throw up fifth ward.
Oh yeah, do you?
Okay, one more time. I'm gonna throw up fifth ward. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Do you.
Okay. Okay.
It's still 3 fingers.
It's a nickel though. See this nickel? Okay.
That's funny.
This is Imagine a World, brought to you by Trade Nation Media. We're out.
Nice.
This is Imagine a World, brought to you by Houston Media Source. Last one.
All Real Radio.
This is Imagine a World, brought to you by All Real Radio.
And that's a wrap, folks. We have it.
Twerk! Brought to you by this twerk. I ain't gonna twerk right now. You know what that means. Boost. Okay.
Thank you so very much. This is awesome.
Sorry,
No. You gotta do.
I'm gonna go
this
just
is
so I
amazing.
can.
Oh, yeah, I love you, sis. Enjoy. Don't even think about moving. Wajila, you can do the same. I got this.
And that's how you go from screen to screen. Okay, I know y'all was seeing it. Y'all was like, yeah.
Yeah, we talking about, I seen you like, he is on the shot. Like, yeah, like, y'all was looking like y'all was on CNN or something, man, for real. I mean, shooting it back and forth.
It was beautiful.
He said, damn, is that me? I'm on, yeah, that's you. Camera 2, camera 1. Splice dice, get ready.
But you know what? To be honest, you all were so compelling that we really ended up like forgetting we were supposed to
See,
be
that's what I'm
working.
saying. When you in that control room, you have to be in control and focused. You can't just launch off wherever wherever you can.
We were like, that's a good point.
Come on now.
Oh God, this is great.
I got a client.
Okay,
You think she can take it?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll ask her right now. Yeah, you handle it.
You think I can get a client out there?
Yeah. Your purse is here. Oh yeah. Enjoy.
Hi,
Bye.
Love you,
Love you
thank
too.
you.
You're welcome.
Okay.